If you're confused by cornering, we're gonna fix it right now in this video using balance training. What you're going to be told to do is work on your bike body separation. I'm gonna show you something that's better than that. You're gonna be told to drop your outside foot. I'm gonna give you a variation that's even better that will double your balance. And then practice drills and clinics. Listen, they are good for you. They do help, but this is faster. So what is balance training and why should you care? Well, aside from the fact that I am the great Bermbino, the Triple Crown winner, same wife, same kids, same paid for minivan, probably the only guy here to cut his own hair for the past 20 years and still look, well, I'm missing half the hair. They just won't give me a discount for the half that's missing. So that's why I really cut my hair. I'm on a mission to solve the crash crisis and the progression problem by restoring athleticism. And what I've found is that after coaching hundreds of intermediate riders, these are the principles that are working out there at Whistler, out there at Arkansas, out there in Colorado, out there at Jared's place. Big shout out to Jared's place. Love you guys. All right, so listen, what you need to do to get balance on the bike is we need to solve three main problems. So when people complain to me about cornering, they're riding stiff. Now, what this one feels like, you get on the bike and you just kind of feel like you're stood up into the turn, or you don't feel like you have balance, and so you're just kind of holding on with your arms, or your whole body just kind of feels tight. And if anything happens, like the turn goes downhill or there's a bump or anything like that, you suddenly become way out of balance and you got to grab brake and stop. Okay, so stiff riding, we got to solve that. And then you've also got to solve falling on the bars or pulling back on the bars. So in other words, not kind of finding that balance point. So we got to solve that one as well. And then finally, just going slow and not having fun. That sucks. Like, you bought a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 mountain bike and you've been riding it for years and you're slow. No fun in that, guys. We got to fix it. So if you're going slow or you're pulling on the brakes and you're brake happy, we just got to fix it. So here's what we need to do. We need to do something called the balance pocket. The balance pocket is a thing that we create by the shape of our body and by the forces in our body and the efficiency of how we work with the bike, okay? So the balance pocket is the one thing that if you do this, all the mistakes that we all have. Like, I have poor ankle mobility in my left ankle because I blew it up trying 360s in college. I had a complete knee reconstruction surgery and it doesn't work the same way it used to because they had to take out my hamstring and put it into my knee. So our bodies don't work like they used to. We have to create this balance pocket, because when you create the balance pocket, what you do is you effectively stay balanced inside of here or here. And if your balance pocket is big, then rocks and roots and variations in terrain and speed don't mean that you crash. It means that you don't have to ride stiff. It means that you don't have to fall on the bars or pull on them. It means that you can go fast and not pull on the brakes. So the problem though is that if your balance pocket is small, then you have to either nail the technique or stay within really tiny limits, which again, if you have a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 or more $1,000 mountain bike, that is not okay. My dad was an accountant and he would be very disappointed if he spent $5,000 on a toy that didn't work. So the real question is, how do you increase the balance pocket? And what we want to do is we want to look at, what does the balance pocket even look like? So let's start with the very most basic thing, which is your foot position, okay? This one's pretty easy. You can just get on the bike and stand up tall and press your pedals away from each other. Now, I want to give a shout out. Roxy does the wedge, BICP does the wedge, Shams Marsh is the founder over there, you know, the wedge, big deal. That's what they call it. Ryan Leach calls it the bowl theory, where you can put your hands inside of a bowl and you can pick up the bowl. Lee McCormack talks about this with his triangle of awesome. But I call it the pedal press. It's basic physics. So when you stand on the bike, and just roll with me for a second. Now, even if you're an advanced rider or you've been riding a long time, you need to pay attention to this, because if you just stand on the bike with flat feet like this and you push your feet independently, you'll notice that the pedals move forward and backward. Now, if you fall forward and the pedals go like this, the next thing that happens is that you're allowing the pedals to go like this up and down, and you're just falling with the bike, then ultimately your balance pocket is really tiny, because anything that happens means you're falling forward or backward. That's just one of the planes. I'm not even talking about side to side. I'm not even talking about traction. All of this has to do with your foot position. You know, remember how at the beginning of the video I said you don't want to drop your outside foot and you don't want to worry about bike body separation? Again, those things can help, but they are ultimately super beginner band-aids. And if you think that is the solution, that is actually an end result of what I call the progression process. Now, The third part of the progression process, which if you want to see a full breakdown of that, I have another video on how to build the perfect mountain biker body, and you can see that here, I'll link it. This third part, which talks about functional movement, allows us to move the body a certain way, okay? And so functional movement is a combination of all of these things. You've got mobility, raw strength, and functional strength, and we need to be able to have functional movement while we're stable on top of a bike, going over rocks and roots, going 20, 30 miles an hour, over off-camber stuff, okay? So you need to be able to do one thing and one thing only in order for this to fall into place, okay? And that is hip mobility. Hip mobility, out of all of these things that you can master, all of these are important for mountain biking, especially if you want to go at the highest levels. But if you want to do one thing and one thing only that actually matters, it is hip mobility, and it is the worst thing that mountain bikers have on their arsenal of skills. The reason why it's such a tough thing is because we sit down for hours a day, even if you're an active person, and hips get very used to going in one line and going up into a sitting position and back to standing. This is an atrocious training. This is it is literally like a middle finger to God. And on the 8th day he created Nar, he said, this is very good. And the next thing that happened is we went off and the great fall happened because we didn't move our hips. And it looks like this. All right, so the great fall, there's my great fall that I'm talking about. All right, so our hips became stiff and we fell on the bars and we went slow and crashed. I'm just making a joke here, but it's not your fault if you can't move your hips. It's probably because you're really good at your professional job and society just necessitates that we sit down a lot. So I gotta be honest with you, you probably can't fix this on your own. Recently I've been talking with professional athletes, so elite level athletes who are sending 40 and 50 footers, and what they complain about is they've been stuck for years on things like my hamstrings are tight, my hip flexors don't move, I get really tight in the groin. When I get into a hinge on the bike, I start to feel weak and I start to have to use my shoulders. These are professional athletes. It made me wonder, why is everybody missing this? And that's why you're watching my channel, because you believe that athleticism is the key to restoring the confidence on the bike that you once had when you were 10, 20 years old, or that you wish you had if you didn't ride. So you got to work on that hip mobility. That's number one. That is the single biggest thing because it allows you to move your hips while you're on the bike. And I want to give you an example of how to go somewhat fast and moving those hips, okay? The reason I'm able to open up and have a lot of balance and move around here is because my hips are able to move. In other words, the pelvis, the bone that's inside of, here, and my femurs, they move independently of each other, okay? So I can twist them, I can turn them, I can open them up, I can move them slowly, I can move them quickly, I can move them with strength, and it just feels like I'm flowing around, okay? So when you have this ability to create movement, the movement is what creates your ability to expand your balance pocket. Okay? When you expand the balance pocket, you allow yourself to express more ranges of motion with more strength throughout that range of motion. And again, I'm only giving you guys one little tip. If you want to fix hip mobility, this is what we do. So I'm not trying to be a dirtbag and just be like, sign up for my stuff here, but there's a link below and you know what to do if that's you. So again, you can try to fix this on your own, but it will not work. The pros aren't figuring it out and probably you won't either. So I am going to be a total dirtbag. Click the link. All right, so let's get into some technical stuff. The other way to, instead of just working on bike body separation, now that you have the pedal press, what you're able to do is you're able to choose between dropping your outside foot, or you can choose to keep your feet kind of level with the horizon, so to speak, okay? I have to admit, if you're listening this far into the video, here's your Easter egg. I don't care what you do. Both techniques are great and they're useful for different situations. There's pluses and minuses to both. If I can press my pedals away from each other like this and create balance fore and aft, then I'm not gonna fall forward or backward, and I'm just able to stand up on the bike as it goes around the trail like this, okay? So I can choose to do outside foot down, or I can choose to do feet somewhat level with the horizon. So a couple things to keep in mind. If you do your outside foot dropped, I do recommend that you at least add roughly equal pressure to both feet. The reason why is that if you load all of your forces and all your pressure through just the outside pedal, it will pull the bike up, and you'll need to counteract that with your arms, which means that your entire body needs to be rigid. And it can be done if you're a strong person, you've got a great core, you've got a lot of mobility, you've got a lot of quick muscle reactions. A lot of riders can do both. Racers scream and say, you just gotta drop your outside foot. And then all the riders that are not in as good a shape, they can't do it, and they're like, whoa, I dropped my outside foot, but I still feel stiff. It's because your body isn't catching up to you, okay? So play around with it, and again, my cheat code for you is put equal weight into both feet and play around with a range of dropping your outside pedal. You can drop it a little bit, you can drop it all the way. The more that you drop that outside pedal, the more that you're going to have weight in one place on the bike. And so it gives you less forward and aft balance through that foot, and you need to create it through the bars, okay? If you're falling on the bars, could be because you're just dropping the outside foot and going like this with the arms and holding on for your life. And then also, one way to fix balance when your feet are a little bit more level is, again, to have a lot of athleticism. This one gives us a ton of forward and back balance, but sometimes the thing as well is, you'll notice my back heel is up and my front heel is down, my front toe is up, okay? That allows me to sit inside of the bike. But what if there's a rock? What if there's a root? What if there's a drop? What if there's a hard G out that I need to lean into? Or what if the turn starts going sharper all of a sudden and I need to do a manual or a wheelie out of there? You can play around with your crank position and your foot position to initiate movement on the bike. But here's the key. You want to have a strong core. Riders that have a strong core, I'm talking about like rotation, anti-rotation, I'm talking Palloff presses, I'm talking about medicine balls. If you have strong mobile core, then this one's gonna feel really good. Now, the downside to this one, again, is that it doesn't allow me to, necessarily push into the bike the same way, and I have to create more movement if something slips. And so, like for example, if my back tire slips out here, here's an example, I have to drop my outside foot to catch myself. So let's watch this one together. You can kind of see that right there where I had to drop my outside foot. What's happening here is that I set up for the turn decently well, and I really leaned the body over quite a bit, and I committed to this turn. And then what happens right here is that there's an off camber section that happens after a berm. So it goes from berm to off camber. And what I have to do is I have to switch from feet kind of level the horizon up here. My bike is sliding away from me, 2-tire slide. I have to extend that outside foot and drop that heel down to make an adjustment, and I'm able to ride it out. Again, everyone telling you to just drop your outside foot, or everyone telling you to only ride with your pedals level, nobody's right, nobody's wrong. It's just that mountain biking is really hard, and you need to intentionally practice. Okay, what happens if I have my pedals level and I press them apart from each other and I twist on top of the bike? What happens if I'm going down a turn and all of a sudden I lose traction if I drop my outside pedal? Is it, am I going way too far back? Like right here, I just jammed my leg out to move the tire. You can even see a little wisp of dust right there. So what I did is I smashed the tire into the ground, and when you increase pressure, you increase grip. And so I increased the grip and was able to finish my turn that way. Now let's bring it all home. If you want to do one thing, now that you got your hips moving, now that you got a good stable base to stand on, well, how do you bring it all together? Well, let's do this. So we're going to exaggerate the hip swing. What this is where we take the hips and we point them where we're about to go. And we want to really exaggerate this so that we have a bigger balance pocket. What I've found is that when you're cornering, there's almost no penalty to turning your hips too much. And riders who are confused with cornering, they struggle with this because their hips are so locked in that they're doing all of their movement, their bike body separation, they're doing their outside foot drop within the tiniest balance pocket possible. And this kills their ability to actually feel real balance on the trail. And as soon as anything comes in, like you can see the trail goes up and down and around and left and right. And this isn't even a hard trail, this is a green trail. As soon as you put a intermediate rider on this, I can smoke them just by turning my hips. When you spin those hips and exaggerate the hip twist, it's kind of like finding the very end of your range of motion, and it opens up all the movement you could ever want. So take a look at this. What you're gonna find is that this movement, again, everyone talks about body position and it gives me an aneurysm. It is about body movement, not body position. The movement we need to create is one where there is bike body separation. There is, again, you can drop your outside foot or you can keep them level, but there is this feeling of pushing and carving the bike into the turn with the feet. And all of that happens because we're able to swing our hips out. When we swing our hips out, a couple things happen. If you look closely at the video, you're going to see that I have my hips turned to the rider's right. We also have the inside knee is out of the way. That's a benefit of that. That allows me to create my, quote, bike body separation and tilt the bike independent of the body. It also allows me room to pump my legs and match the trail here and end up in a really neutral position, ready to anticipate the next thing. So my movement here, these little micro movements, are a result of me creating the space and opening up the space of the turn before my body needs to do the turn, before the bike needs to do the turn. You'll also notice how low I am right here. My seat of my pants is on the seat. You're gonna notice that my head is nice and low. And I keep my head nice and still throughout this, and I move my body and my bike around me. Then I pick everything up again, twist the hips, and this allows me to go downhill and pump around this turn. It wasn't even perfect, but still. When you swing the hips, again, this is a hip swing. It allows us to create movement. We need to move away from positions and into movement. If this is something that you can work on, all you have to do is stand on top of the bike and just twist your hips as far as they go. A good indicator of it's working is to look down or feel if you're turning to your right knee touches the frame. If you're turning your hips to the left, your left knee touches the frame. Some of you may have frames that aren't shaped like that. Some of you may. Either way, it's a good little tip to think about as a cue. Twist so much your knee turns into the frame. So again, if you're listening to this and you're a mountain biker who wants to shred with confidence forever, you're sick and tired of being the kind of rider that's okay being stuck at a plateau for years, go ahead and click the link below. It's a link to apply for the Athlete Accelerator. It is our flagship program where we do a 90-day intensive to restore your athleticism, give you absolute technique perfection, and then finally, we help you restore your confidence with the Mindset Lab. So if that's something that's interesting to you, apply now to see if you qualify, and I'll see you on the other side. Thanks.